channel. I'm so happy to have Jess back here again with us. Her YouTube channel is Jessica Kent. So before anything, go over and subscribe to Jess. She is here to celebrate Second Chances Month with us again. So I am so grateful that you're back, girl. I've been having so much fun reading your comments and watching you on my live videos and going over to your channel and watching your videos and everything. So I really just want to turn it over to you because I know you're making the best of your second chance. And I know you're doing a lot with helping addicts and educating all of us on addiction and how to give addicts their second chance, whether they've been inside or not.
Yeah, I'm so glad we found each other. YouTube is a huge place. So I'm just so grateful to whoever linked us up. It was one of my subscribers. So I'm just so grateful that we found each other here. I think you're doing great things, especially this month. I mean, there's so many people that have stories like mine or stories like your husband's that can just come on here and share our experience. So I love YouTube for that. It's a great platform. But yeah, for those of you that don't know, my name is Jessica, and I am 7 years sober from heroin, meth, and pills. And that's a crazy cocktail, I know. I suffered from addiction from a really young age. I was about 12 when I started drinking, 13 when I started like drugs, like pills, and then, well, I'm sorry, it was weed and then pills, and it kind of just went from there. So I didn't get sober until I was like 22. So that's a long time, you know, and my addiction led me to the darkest of places. And I honestly thought in that moment, like, this is my life. This is my purpose. I'm just going to be a drug addict forever. I was also a drug dealer, and that led me to a lot of dangerous situations. So I have owed people money because of that. I have been to jail because of that. I mean, there's just a lot of things that happened to me, but my addiction controlled my life. It controlled my life. It controlled my life with my family, and it almost cost me my life. I've overdosed 3 times. I've had to be revived on the street with a Narcan. I was so bad. I had cracks from the bottom of my arms, on the top of my hands, all the way up my arm. I mean, I was just such a bad addict that I had blinders on. This is my life. This is my purpose. I'm going to die young, fizzle out and die, and that's just my story. Until it wasn't. So I had tried many times to get sober, and I tried cold turkey. I never tried with any other drugs because I thought, I'm better than this. I'm strong. I can handle it. I can go through the pain. And no, I couldn't. My addiction was 10 times stronger than I was in that moment. I didn't see my potential. I didn't see my worth. I didn't see my value. And at one time, I had tons of money. That's what I thought I wanted. My purpose in life was to sell drugs. I thought I wanted money and fancy things, and I didn't want to work a 9 to 5. And I know that seems like crazy to look at me now and think that that was my life, but the person sitting in front of you is not the person that was there 7 years prior. I was a completely different person. And like I said, I had great things. I had a lot of money. And then at the very end of my addiction, all of my possessions have been whittled down to a backpack with 2 outfits in it, a picture of my boyfriend, a needle, and a pair of socks. And that backpack doubled as my pillow on a Greyhound bus after leaving New York on the run. And that's just what addiction does. It takes everything from you. So I've had really high highs and really low lows. I actually told a story on my channel today of having to shoot up on a Greyhound bus, and I used a stranger's water bottle that he had like this much water left, but I didn't have water, and you don't know when Greyhound buses are going to stop for a break, and I wasn't going to wait an hour, 2 hours, because my addiction didn't give me the luxury of waiting a couple of hours. So I was like, hey man, can I get that water bottle? And he's like, it's smudged in it. I'm like, yeah, let me get it. And he's like, okay. And the look on his face, I will never forget it ever, because he was just like, ew, like, why do you want this? Like, this much water. But that's all I needed. And it just, like, goes to show you my addiction knew no bounds, you know? Like, it didn't care. My addiction told me get high. That's all that mattered. So, makes me cry, like, every time I think about it. I am living proof that sobriety is possible. I got arrested for possession of meth, delivery of meth, and a gun charge. I went to a maximum security prison where I gave birth to my first child. And that was my moment. That was my aha moment where I was like, you're done. Like, this is the lowest of the low. It's not about you anymore. It's about this little baby girl that you have to fight for. And that led me down a path, and you can definitely jump in, Ro, anytime you want. That led me down a path of getting out, going to a halfway house, working a DHS case plan just to get custody. So just to be given the right to be a mother, I had to fight for that. And that fight like reinstilled in me, I need to stay sober. And I've been sober ever since. I have full custody of my little girl. We now have been blessed with another little girl. So we have 2 daughters. And I'm about to graduate with my bachelor's degree in psychology.
Oh my gosh, congratulations. Wow. And I've learned so many times in so many areas of life from so many different people, from business people all the way to people who deal with people who are incarcerated. Everybody says to take your struggles and the worst experience of your life and use it to fuel your purpose and your passion. And you are a living example of that. That is so amazing. I'm just so happy. I mean, I don't even know you very well, but I'm so proud of you for everything that you've done and for everything that you stand for and for everybody that you help. It's amazing. You are that example of the second chance, not only with addiction, but also with incarceration. That's amazing. So a lot of people who follow me and who follow Strong Prison Lives and Families are supporting an addict who is on the inside. They might have been in addiction themselves or never had to deal with addiction.
I'm sorry, did you just hear that?
I heard it, yeah.
We have new neighbors, and they have motorcycles.
I thought it was one of the babies, so motorcycle's okay.
Okay, he's gone.
Okay. So a lot of our members, they're supporting, or they've been in addiction, or maybe they even haven't been in addiction, and they know nothing about it, and they're trying to support an addict who is now incarcerated. What advice would you have for somebody who's loving an addict and has no experience with addiction?
Yeah, the first thing to know is that you can get drugs in prison. Straight up, it happens every single day. I've seen it myself. Not to like implement myself in some stuff I haven't been charged with, but I always knew how to get it, where it was coming in every facility I have been to. I have been in county jails in different states. I have been in prison in 2 different states. I've seen it, and no matter what, you would just have to pay attention to the signs. If you think this person might be using, just go with your gut. So an addict is going to be erratic. An addict is going to act one way one day, and they're going to be different the next day. So just pay attention to that. There are red flags all throughout an addict's life. And even if you don't know, if you have like that little voice telling you like something's not right, then something probably is not right. Don't lie to yourself and ask them. If they get pissed off, maybe, you know what I mean? If they're asking you for a lot of money, but you tell them no, see how they react to that, So addicts in prison will run up debts with the dope man. So if they ask you, like, this is dire, I need this money now, not I need this money on commissary day or I need a little bit for this, like it doesn't sound right, it probably isn't right.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. Okay, so talk to me a little bit about rock bottom. And a lot of people are like, well, he's in prison. That's his rock bottom. So we're good. But I know for a lot of people, prison wasn't or isn't their rock bottom. So where do we go from there? What does it take? Do we know what it takes?
Yeah. For me at first, prison was not my rock bottom. Prison was a time out or a vacation from my life. I knew people there. It just wasn't anything. I took it as, oh, gotta go do this little bit of time. And as soon as I get out, I can go back to my life. So, and that's just me. Everyone's different. But I would have my dealer waiting for me at the jail to pick me up at midnight to go back to work. I mean, I never took it seriously. So prison for a lot of people is just a lifestyle. It's what they're used to. They're institutionalized. And when you meet someone that is institutionalized, you can't help them. You can't tell them what to do. And my ex is institutionalized. And when I realized that, I was hurt. I was devastated. I loved him so much, but I had to love me first and love me more and walk away. And walking away saved my life. So right now he is in prison for the 10th time, and there is nothing I can do to save him.
Yeah, there's a lot of times that I have to tell people it's time to walk away. And it's so hard because I want to be that voice and that, oh, everybody can get through this. You've got this. But sometimes it takes more strength to walk away than it does to stay. So how do you get over the guilt, though, of leaving an addict, that, especially if you've been enabling them?
That's a really good question. it's kind of a two-part question. So first, how do you know you're enabling an addict? And then how do you deal with that grief? So for me, if an addict is happy with you, they love you, everything's great, you're probably enabling them. If they're mad at you, you're probably trying to save their life. That's the first thing. The second thing is I still deal with that grief. I walked away from my ex knowing he wasn't going to get sober. I left him in jail. I think he, at that point, had been in jail. That was his 6th time, maybe 5th. And I knew that when he got out, I was not going to be there. And usually I just had this little safety net for him. Never had to hit the ground. He got out, got clothes, shoes, cigarettes, an apartment, whatever he needed, I provided. And I knew when he got out, he would have to struggle. And then he struggled again, relapsed again and again and again. And still to this day, it's funny you mention it because I mentioned it to Reese tonight, my boyfriend now. We talk about it. We're very open. I said, if he dies, I'm going to feel like the biggest POS because I could not save him. And I know it's not my fault. Like, I still know I can't save him, but it feels horrible. Like, I want him to have what I have, freedom and sobriety and a family. I want to see him doing well, but I can't give that to him. If he doesn't want it, I can't give it. And that's just something that you have to be aware of. Just because you want that person to have a certain life doesn't mean they want it. And even if they tell you they want it, if they're not working towards it, they're not going to get it. So you have to be very aware of their actions and not their words.
Yeah. And I think I just want to touch on something you said. I know that your work is with addicts as far as drugs and maybe alcohol, but they can be addicted to so many different things inside of jail. So if he's gambling away all of this money and he wants more and more and more money and he's running up all of these gambling debts, it's a different type of addiction. And if he's kind of draining you dry, then you have to reevaluate and see and have these talks with him because it could be very similar. It's just a different addiction.
Yeah, I loved gambling. I would bet on dominoes. I would play cards, spades, usually some poker. But like, if you're going to go to prison, do not gamble what you do not have. Like, never run up debts because you could get hurt like badly if you do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me about your transition out of prison as you were getting out, and then how did you get your life back, a job and everything?
It's actually crazy, like everything else in my life. I got out 2 weeks or 3 weeks early. I didn't have a plan. Arkansas kind of pushed me out, and I had nowhere to go. So I actually paroled to a friend who lied for me to get out. She said, yeah, she can live here. When I showed up there was already 2 people on parole living at that house and someone in drug court. I walked in and I'm like, I can't live here with you. Like, are you serious? So I had to go through my jail mail. I'm rummaging through all of it. And I found this letter to a halfway house that I had been accepted to. And I called this lady and I'm like, can I please come live here? Like, I can't live where I am. And she was so nice. She drove 2 hours to pick me up. And that started my halfway house experience. And keep in mind, I have nothing. I have a pair of prison sweatpants, 2 prison shirts, and prison shower shoes, which are basically like the cheapest flip-flops you could ever find. That's all I have. I had like a stick of deodorant, a toothbrush, toothpaste, and my prison clothes. So in order for me to get a job, I had to get an ID, but I had to back up. In order for me to get an ID, I had to get a birth certificate and a social security card. I had nothing. It was so hard. But eventually I found this job, and it was a telemarketing job. And I went to the guy, and I'm like, hey, man, I don't have an ID. I don't have anything. I just got out of prison. This hoodie is borrowed. Please give me a job. Like, I'll do anything. He was like, okay, when you get an ID, bring it back. I just need to photocopy it for our records. And I thought, I can work here. It was like the worst job ever, but I was so grateful for that job. It paid nothing. My first paycheck, I think, was just a 12-hour shift. It was $62. And then I had to take that paycheck and go to a grocery store and beg someone to cash it without an ID. So every step of the way was really hard. But slowly but surely, I was able to get a pair of pants and a pair of shoes. And I just kind of built up from there. One job turned into 2. So now I'm working 2 jobs. And every spare moment that I had, I was at my telemarketing job, I was at my vapor store job, like a cigarette store, or I was at an NA meeting, or I was dead tired. So I worked so hard. I wouldn't allow myself extra time. I didn't hang out with anyone. I didn't go out to even a restaurant because the girl couldn't afford it. Like, I did nothing else. I just was laser focused on working in my DHS case to get my daughter, because she was in foster care, and staying sober. And that was my life for a good year until I got a steady, better job. But it was a struggle. It was really hard.
Yeah. Yeah, but it just proves that drive and tenacity and having your head on straight and just no one's going to stop me. There are people out there that will provide for you and help, not provide for you, I don't mean that, but provide the resources for you. And for not just Jess, but for all of these returning citizens that need their second chances. That came out so funny. It was like citizens. So it was horrible. So when did you decide in all of this that you wanted to work with addicts?
It wasn't until actually a couple of years ago. So I was working at a job called Landstar. It was a freight broking job. And I thought I was like so great because I was a freight broker. Like it just sounded great. I had my own desk. I mean, I was so grateful for like the tiniest things, right? And I was going to transition to a better company called JB Hunt. And I interviewed for this job in this big fancy corporate building because Northwest Arkansas is like the hub of transportation, you know? So I interviewed, they loved me. I told them I was a felon. I walked out of there just on cloud nine, got this amazing job, right? So I left my job at Landstar, and 2 weeks later, I get a call from HR saying, I'm sorry, we can't hire you until you've been 7 years felony free. And at that time, I was 3 years felony free. And I was like, or maybe almost 4. I was like, excuse me, I need a job. I just left my job. You told me, like I signed my offer letter, took my drug test, everything. So I remember just crying for like 3 days straight in bed. I didn't know what to do. Reese didn't know how to console me. Like we were so set on me having this job with benefits, and I was just so excited. And I remember being so mad and bitter, and I thought, you know what? If my life is going to be made hard forever because I'm an addict and a felon, I'm going to help felons. And that day I enrolled in school. And I just decided, like, I will get my bachelor's degree, maybe even my master's degree, and I'll be a counselor. I'm going to work in rehab or juvie or jail or prison, anywhere that'll take me, because there is no way in hell you're going to tell me I can't do something because I'm a felon. So I've just been fighting ever since. And it just kind of like lit that flame, you know, because that's kind of how I am. You tell me I can't walk in that door, I'm going to build my own door and get through it. So in October, I'll graduate, and then I'm going to work like literally anywhere. So I'm super excited. And then YouTube, I just started YouTube like 5 months ago. And that was because I was helping out with a reentry class in prison. So my videos are being shown because the prison in Arkansas said, you cannot come in prison. Like, no, girl, bye. So the class instructor videos, I can show them in class. So that's what started YouTube. It wasn't even to like share my story or have my own channel. It was just to show videos in reentry class.
That's so cool. It's amazing how life just kind of works itself out like that. I love it. So I'm asking everybody that comes on for Reentry Month a couple of the same questions, kind of like that Tim Ferriss type of philosophy. What do you think was the hardest thing about your transition coming back home?
I think I was just really unprepared. You know, I didn't know it was going to be so hard. I didn't know I was going to have to barely be able to eat frozen burritos and ramen noodles out of prison. You know, every time I had gotten out before, whether it was just a 60-day violation, 30-day violation, a year violation, because that's what I did. I did a lot of violations with my past case. I would always go back to my hometown in New York and sell drugs, and drug money got me everything I needed. It was never hard. So when you take all that away and you put me 1,300 miles away in a halfway house, struggling to make ends meet, it just shocked me. You know, my first year was just a roller coaster of emotion. I probably had some PTSD, to be honest, because I didn't know, like, basic things. Like, I would forget to eat. I didn't know I could turn the thermostat up and down. I'd be freezing cold at night. Like, there were so many things that just shocked me, and that's stupid. You know, I didn't want to go to sleep until everyone else in the house was asleep, which is something I did in prison. I would sleep while people were awake. So, like, the barracks kind of closed down after chow. So, like, from, like, 5 to 10:30, that's when I would sleep. And then everyone else would be going to bed at like 10:30, 11. That's when I would be awake until everyone was asleep. And I did that in the free world. So there were so many like habits that I wasn't comfortable like letting my guard down or whatever for a long time. So without drugs, it turns out your girl's got feelings and emotions and things are hard. So when you take that away, it was just everything was a struggle. And I remember just having days where I was just sitting outside crying on the porch of the halfway house. I didn't know what to do. I had no one to call, not even a friend that knew who I was, you know. I just wanted someone that knew me to talk to me, besides my mom. I could call my mom. But I felt, you know, just so alone. And getting through that was so important. I needed to get myself right first. stay sober, stay employed, get my daughter back, and just work on me, go to meetings and reflect. I mean, that time that I had by myself was just so important. And I know a lot of people say, like, get support, have a lot of people, but I'm an introvert. And for me, I just needed to be alone, to think it through, to every day return to that halfway house and have a routine. But until I realized all of those things, like, yes, it's going to be hard, but you're strong enough to overcome it. Like I said, I would just cry. Like, it was just so hard. And a lot of things were overwhelming in the free world, like even going grocery shopping. You know, you're used to just buying like stuff on a sheet. Like, you check what you want. You want 5 soups. You want that. Walking in a grocery store after you've been in prison is so weird. There's so many options. Like, you're so overwhelmed with just everything. I didn't even know what to buy in a grocery store. Like, it's hard transitioning. So I think the first year is the hardest. I don't know if I'm rambling or if I answered that question, but yeah, it was really difficult to just kind of live a normal life and just be a normal person.
Yeah, no, not rambling at all. And you answered that perfectly. As you're talking, I'm thinking of this story because Adam did 4 years in the state, 3 years in the state. God, I can't remember, before he got caught this case. Unfortunately, he's a statistic. And he told me a story that was very similar to yours. He was at the grocery store and he reached up to grab something on a top shelf and somebody walked too closely behind him. And he said he flipped out. He dropped everything. I could see the anxiety in your face as I'm saying it because I've heard this all the time. You don't get through prison, no matter how short or how long, without some sort of PTSD. So he literally had to leave, walk out of the store. He said he had to smoke a cigarette, calm himself down, and then try again another day. So I think that's so helpful and beneficial for us on the outside who are supporting people on the inside to know so we can look out and be prepared for this. And something that really actually helped me, and I was thinking about it as you were talking, was when your subscriber told me about your channel, I went and the first video I watched was you talking about some of the idiosyncrasies that you have left over from prison. I don't remember the name of it, but I think that would be such a great video for all of you guys watching this to go over to Jess's channel and to watch because I learned so much from that video.
Yeah, like prison habits I still have. And keep in mind, I've been out for 5 years. I'm still doing that. Like, I make Reese courtesy flush. It's so crazy, the things I still do. Even making my bed, I have to like do the things I did. And you'd think like, oh, you've been out for 5 years. Why are you still doing that? But it's just a habit that's ingrained in my mind. And when you were saying the person walking too closely to Adam, like, I wouldn't like people near me, like in my bed area, which is a term, but like, you know, so I was in a halfway house and I had this roommate. So we both had twin beds and she would come over and sit on my bed. And I hated that. Like, you're not supposed to do that in prison. And I was just like, your bed's over there. Like, it's 5 inches from my bed. Like, don't sit on my bed, you know, or even having my shoes on, like in the house or in my room. I hated that. So, yeah, I had anxiety really bad, even driving in a car. It's such a normal thing. And I still to this day have anxiety about being in a car. And that's weird because I didn't have that before. So I'm not sure where that started, but I don't like someone else driving. I have to be in control of everything, like control of the car. That'll make me crazy. But yeah, I feel like it's like lifelong things that I have because of prison.
Yeah. But I took notes when I was watching that video and I never talked to you about it because we decided we were going to go in a different direction. But some of them were really good. Like, I was like, I wish I had that habit, like making my bed every day. I don't. So some of them are really good habits. It's just, I was having this, doing an interview with somebody this morning who just got out 3 months ago. And he was saying, he's like, I just feel like I manipulate everybody. He said, women, people, he goes, because that's what you do inside of prison. And I told him, I said, and he was kind of getting down on himself that it was a bad quality that he developed in there. And I said, it's really not. It's just the way that you use it. You don't necessarily have to consider it manipulation. Maybe it's persuasion. Like, I had a friend who got out after 10 years, started at a very high-end car dealership as a janitor because he just needed a job. Now he's a GM selling hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of cars because of that sales ability, the quote-unquote manipulation that he developed inside of there. So it's just kind of that perspective flip. But yeah, I love that.
I will always be a hustler. I will always have that hustler mentality, that go-get-it mentality. And for me, I'm like so grateful of that skill because I can sell anything. I can sell freight. I can sell cars. I can sell real estate. And I don't view it as a negative thing. You know, there are farmers and there are hunters. Like, which one are you, right? So for me, like, that's who I am. And I understand, like, why he thinks that's bad. A lot of the books that you read in prison are kind of about that too, like 48 Laws of Power or things like that, where you kind of learn, I'm sorry, someone text me. You kind of learn, like, how to hustle more, and you're around people that are so clever and so smart and hustlers, and they manipulate. So when you're in that environment, you kind of just pick up little things here and there. And if it hadn't have been for my sales ability and my go-get-it mentality, I wouldn't have got that job without an ID. I wouldn't have cashed that check without the ID. And it's just my sales talk. And I didn't view it as manipulation. I viewed it as survival. So a lot of us as felons need that survival instinct of go get it, be a hustler, work through your problems.
Yeah. I love that. So guys, make sure that you're not getting down on him as long as he's using it in the right way, or she is using it in the right way, that these are skills that they've developed. And you're right, there's so many people in prison that are genius and they're so resourceful. It blows my mind when I hear that the smarts that these people have. It's amazing. So tell me, if you knew, not that we would ever have to do this all over again, but if you did have to do it all over again, or if you had to go back in time about 6 months before your release, what do you wish that you knew?
I wish I knew that I was going to get my daughter back. You know, I went up and down with that. I would have caseworkers like mid-case when I was out tell me, it doesn't look good, Jessica. You're not going to get your daughter back, Jessica. Like, caseworkers tell me that, you know. So if I could just tell myself one little thing, it would be keep fighting. You're going to get that little girl back. Because if I just knew that tiny little detail, everything else would have been a little bit easier, you know, because I'm scrambling and I'm crying and it was really hard. And there were so many moments where I thought, I'm not going to get her back. I mean, I'm going to lose her. And I kind of hung on to that. Like, she was all I wanted in this world. And what if it went the other way? You know, what if I gave up? So not that I would, but a caseworker telling you you're not going to get your kid back is a good reason to quit, especially when you're starving, eating ramen noodles, begging people to give you a ride to your crap job that pays like $7.50 an hour. Like, I was so down on myself. So no matter what happens, do not give up. No matter what the situation is, keep fighting. So that's like the one thing I wish I knew.
I love that. And I'm throwing these at you, you guys. She has no idea that these questions are coming her way. I love it. No. And I think that's where you and I are so much alike, and on this much of a level, because it's different when it's your baby and it's your own flesh and blood. But I don't know if everybody knows this. Adam and I aren't legally married. I say husband because we've been together for so many years and we kind of have that commitment level, but I won't marry him in there because of that. I will never give up that fight to do that out here. And as you were talking, I'm like, no. It's kind of good that you didn't know, because you never gave up that fight. And it was kind of that cherry on top, even better. And it made your story so much better. I love it. So what do you think that, advice for us supporting somebody who's coming home? What's the best piece of advice you could think to give us?
I honestly think it's important not to help too much. And I am guilty of this. I gave my aunt the world, you know. It has to be a little hard. We have to work our asses off. And I think don't like follow someone around with a pillow to catch their fall. You know what I'm saying? Like, help them, give them rides to interviews, you know. But I just think they have to figure it out by themselves. And I know that's really hard. I know a lot of people don't want to give that up, especially if it's your own child or if it's your husband, if it's your wife. I know it's really difficult to not want to carry a little pillow around and help them, but they have to work to rebuild their lives. And when you do that yourself, you're so proud of yourself. Like, I'm so proud of everything I've accomplished because I did it on my own, you know. So I think that's really important. Also, I don't know if this is like bad to say. You have to do, I don't want to like offend anyone. If you see someone that's getting out of prison and they go back to that life, do not enable them. Like, if they're using drugs, kick them out of your house and make sure you're okay and you put yourself first. I know it's going to make people mad to say, like, I can't kick this addict out. They could die on the street. Listen, they can die in your house too. You know, it's so important that the addicts hit rock bottom, or you're not enabling someone, because you could be helping them lose their life. And over half of all inmates right now are struggling from substance abuse issues. So take them to an NA meeting, be supportive in that, but allow them to figure it out on their own. Even if they come to you like crying and they don't know what to do, just give them positive advice. Let them come to you, let them cry, but they need to figure it out.
Oh, I love that. That's amazing. Okay, last one. And I don't know if you're going to be able to remember this, and it's so fine if you're not, because you are the first person that had a lot of time in between incarceration and when I'm interviewing. Everybody else is less than a year right now. So one of the questions that I was asking everyone, kind of like a bonus question, was what was the best purchase of $100 or less that you made, the first thing that you purchased that was the best after prison?
You know, the one thing you think about in prison is food. So the first meal that I had, it was hibachi. My friend picked me up from prison to drive me to another person's house. And I met her in prison. And that's very rare to have an inmate get out and then give you a ride home. Like, people just forget about you after they go home more often than not. So she picked me up and she took me to hibachi. And even though I didn't pay for that, I was so grateful for that. And it also made me sick because I wasn't used to all the sodium or whatever. But I took that first bite and I thought, oh my God, this is amazing. Or I had like an ice cold tea. I say it in a lot of my videos. All I wanted was like an ice cold bottle of water, or like just like something really, really cold or really, really hot. So like the food's not really hot and the water is not cold. So I was drinking this iced tea, like a sweet tea, you guys. Sweet tea in Arkansas. So I was drinking the tea, the ice cold, and I was so grateful, just beyond grateful for that food. It was the best thing I had ever eaten in my entire life.
I love it. And I've heard you say a couple times that you're Italian, spoken like a true Italian, because the first thing I would want would be food too.
Yeah.
Okay, so you dreamed about the food. I used to compete in fitness, so I would have to be on these crazy diets for like half a year to a year at a time. I would literally have dreams about food, or I would have these dreams that I was cheating on my diet, and it was like I would wake up like, oh my God. I had a dream one time I was drinking tomato sauce. Yes, ridiculous. So what didn't I ask you? What do you want everybody to know? What do you want to leave us with?
I mean, I definitely want everyone to know that sobriety is possible, and I'm living proof of that. You know, if you're struggling in addiction, please get help. And if you know someone, or if you have someone close to you that's struggling with addiction, love them enough to not enable them. And sometimes tough love will save their life. So stay safe and stay clean. And I love you guys. I hope to see some of you on my channel. And yeah, sobriety is possible.
Yes. And one more time, where can everybody find you?
From the hit YouTube channel, Jessica Kent.
There you go. Thank you so much. I always love having you on. You are amazing. Congratulations. Thank you for representing everybody in the second chance and how well you could do, how well everyone can do. And I'm so excited to see where everything takes you. I'm waiting for you to be this like world-renowned addiction counselor one day, seeing you on intervention or something.
I'm like dying for Adam to get out. So I'm praying for him, and I just want him to get released. Seriously, free Adam. Hashtag free Adam, please.
Yeah. Yes. Somebody asked me the other day, like, do you really think he will? And I'm like, no, seriously, I really do. And I don't know if it's my denial, but we're getting closer. I promise. I just talked to one of the attorneys today that's working on a couple of things I can't really talk about yet, and it's, you know, it's the roller coaster. So we remain cautiously optimistic, but thank you. I can't tell you how much it means to me.
All right, girl. I love you. Bye, guys.
Love you too. I hope to see you again soon. No, I will see you again soon. I don't know what I'm even saying. Let me stop.